We are back, people. What is up? How y'all doing? Um, boom. Click on that. There we go. It looks like I'm live. Okay, cool. Awesome. Miami Dolphins versus the San Francisco 49ers. Dolphins were able to pull off a nice win. They clutched up. It was a tough fought game. I think, there's a lot of good takeaways, obviously, in a win. Some negatives, kind of things that continued, throughout the season that were there, but they were still able to pull through that. It's not like, the Niners are having a tough season, but it's not like they're a bad team. So I think it's one of the better team wins the Dolphins have had this season. What's up, Flem? How you doing? I think all around, offense, defense, both made plays when it mattered. Both could have been better, but it wasn't like one unit. It felt like carried the other unit in this game when in other games it's kind of been the case in wins and losses. So I think it's nice to have a quality team win like that. Obviously, I posted the offensive film breakdown earlier today. I also did Isaiah Wynn. That was another part of the game. Isaiah Wynn and Liam Eichenberg rotated in and out. That's another element we can talk about. But definitely a huge improvement for the offense from the Texans game. Tua was much better. Really, the offense's main problems was in the game was just some small mistakes. They had 3 holding calls that effectively killed drives. Some that you probably could have ended with touchdowns but finished with field goals, or some drives where you ended up with no points. And that happened a few times throughout the game. And then they also had some big missed opportunities because technically Tyreek only had 1 drop. If you look at the statistics, he's only gonna have 1 drop, and it's that first play is a drop. The other ones won't be considered drops because one was tipped and the other one was in tight window. They don't usually count those as drops, but those were just missed opportunities that the offense could have had. So they left a lot of plays on the field, but still ended up with how many plays they left on the field. They were still able to finish the game with, 29? So that's still not too bad. Running game was there. That was a big positive of the game. Tua really didn't make many mistakes. He had maybe a couple throws he'd like back, but nothing backbreaking. Was hitting his normal throws, doing some of the underneath stuff, but his anticipation was great over the middle of the field. And he was accurate on those throws, which is big. And then the running game was there. They actually found some success running the ball, especially as the game continued going on. And I think the biggest takeaway for me is the Dolphins won the trench battle on both sides of the ball. The defensive line dominated the Niners O-line, and then the Dolphins O-line, I would say, won the battle versus the Niners D-line. I will talk about Isaiah Wynn, who I think deserves to be a starter, but even when Eichenberg was in, I still think the Dolphins O-line won the battle. So that's good to see. Armstead played amazing. I mean, literally, there's this clip on Twitter right here, actually. I can show it. This clip of Armstead right here. I think Brandon Thorne posted this, but yeah. That snatch and trap at the second level, this is called a snatch technique, but him going to the second level on Warner, gathering himself, and then when Warner's about to shoot his hands out, boom, you snatch, which is you swiping down your hands, and gets him to the ground like that. That's such a good rep. But yeah, O-line did good for the most part. I think, Julian Hill kind of, lets his guy get the tackle there, but he gets a body on. I actually think Julian Hill had some key blocks today, or in that game too, that helped. He had a key block on that Achane touchdown run, another couple nice blocks. So I think the tight ends, not being a detriment was helpful because it didn't feel like the tight ends just got destroyed in the running game, which is also always helpful. But yeah, really good snatch technique right there. On Fred Warner too, who's a dominant second level defender. But being able to, that's what happens when you're able to run the ball and get a key turnover when it matters. You can pretty much win any games. But yeah, hold on, Ryder, let us file in, please. Yeah, I got you. Watching the game, had a couple similar takeaways to a couple of throws to Silent where he was late on those throws. Where some of the throws, yeah, mainly the one that was to Tyreek, a deep comeback. He was late on. That was the only one he was really late on, and I think he was just scared to throw that one just because of that one turned out to get intercepted last week. But yeah, holding calls hurt for sure. Jason Sanders made 5 field goals, I believe. So shout out Jason, and made his extra points. So definitely no problems there. He's actually been one of the brighter spots of the team. So that's good. That tip that Tyreek Hill missed, if it's wide receiver is not considered top 15, we give it a pass, but when you're considered top 5 receiver, you gotta catch that. No, I agree. It should be. Here's the problem. If he caught the other ones, the other plays, and didn't really have a problem dropping the ball, then I would have been fine with him not catching that one. But since he dropped the other big plays and missed those other big plays opportunities, that's the one you got to come down with to make up for it or something, is what it is. I do think that wrist injury's got to be bothering him at the catch point because there's just too many plays this year, even last week, about where he missed some opportunities. Who do you honestly think will make the playoffs? I think Colts. I mean, if I had to guess, it's probably going to be the Broncos, but I mean, the Colts could happen. I forget who the Colts play, but I know they have 2 pretty easy games to finish out the season. Statistically, it's the Broncos just because, I mean, the Colts have a chance, though. Right, this drop goes back to the Eagles game last year. Game-changing drops? Yeah. But, like, last year's drops were, like, they were, like, easy drops that should never happen. To me, those are more concentration drops. These drops feel like less concentration drops and just him not coming down with a big play and more that he's like just not hanging on to the ball, like he's getting out physicaled at the catch point. I think there's a difference in the drops he had last year to this year. It's never been his strong point. Like that's him at the catch point has never been his strong point. But I do think his wrist injury has affected him with some plays. What Achan? Well, Achan has had some misreads this season too. Like overall, I like Achan's vision, but it really just comes down to the O-line. I think when talking about Achan, Mostert, Wright, even like if the lanes are there, they hit him. It's just the lanes have not really been there. Like even Mostert had a long run yesterday as well. He had like a 20-yard run. The rest of the game wasn't too much from him, but it's really just if the lane is there, usually they find it. It just typically hasn't been there because of it's more of an offensive line tight end blocking issue. Real question is, with the slim chances, are we thinking about Bradley Chubb returning? If he's ready to go, I would be down to have Chubb back, but I just don't know. I just don't think they're gonna. I don't think he's gonna come back. Need more Malik. Always down for more Malik. Malik looked good yesterday too. Again, love Malik Washington. He made some nice plays. Right, Colts have to lose 1, Chargers have to lose 2. What else? Well, that's one way to get in. If the Colts lose 1 and the Chargers lose 2 and the Dolphins win out, they would get in. And I think that's the most likely path to getting in. They need Colts to lose 1 for sure. Then the other thing that needs to happen is either Broncos lose 2, Chargers lose 2, which I don't see happening, so I think you're going down the Broncos route. That's like the only way. Either Chargers lose out or Broncos lose out, while the Colts lose 1 of 2 to get in. Do you think it's possible we can get Trey Smith? I mean, it's not impossible, but I just don't think it's. I think he'll probably get re-signed before he even hits free agency, if I had to guess. And the Dolphins, I don't know if they'd throw the bag at a guard, because I think if they were going to throw a bag at a guard, they probably would have just done it last year with Robert Hunt. That's just my guess, but you never know. If they have a different GM, they could always change their approach. But just reading, between the lines with what they have now, I would guess no. Yeah, I really liked what Washington's shown. I'm a big fan. I mean, if you guys have been following the channel, Malik was like one of my guys pre-draft before the Dolphins even drafting him. So getting him in the 6th round, I was always going to be happy about that. And he's been very productive for a 6th round pick. There's really only one bad game from him, and that was the Packers game. But other than that, he's had good plays. He's been solid. He's been getting open more and more versus man-to-man in recent weeks, which I think is big for him. Making some plays down the field, which is always good for the smaller guys that are more shifty slot receivers. If you can make plays down the field and make tough catches, that, is always I think it always projects you to be a better player at the next level. It always gives you a better chance. Holland needs to go. Yeah, I'm guessing Holland will go. For 2021. Is 2021 the Waddle season? Well, this year, yeah, it hasn't been good, but overall, that draft has been mostly good for the Dolphins because Waddle, it's just Phillips hasn't played this season, and Waddle's having a down year. And Holland is also having a bad year, but before that, I mean, Waddle and Phillips are 2 of your better players. It sucks that Holland has been really bad this year. On live finally. What's up, Garrett? I wanted either Chris Mahogany. Well, they could have gone Mahogany in the 7th, right? Which I think Mahogany was there. And Mahogany, apparently, I haven't watched the film, but I know Mahogany played this last week. I think it was his first game for the Lions because they've had some injuries. And from my understanding, he actually played pretty good. But the reason Mahogany fell was because of injuries. But I would have been totally down to draft Mahogany late in the draft. He was one of the guys I was looking at that spot as well. We were there in the 6th round, and I was like, I was either Malik Washington or Christian Mahogany. Waddle, Phillips, Holland, this ain't any of the year. Yeah, but those aren't players I'm typically worried about in the future. Like, I think Waddle is still a great player. I think Phillips will be fine once he's healthy. Holland has been really bad this year, but I just have a feeling Holland's going to go somewhere else next season and just go back to being completely fine, you know? But he'll do it probably for another team, which is, you know, always tough. Yeah. Yeah, Tua's best throws yesterday were probably all of the drops that Tyreek had. Ones that are, you know, will be classified as drops, not drops. Just unfortunate that's how it played out. Because I actually thought, I mean, if those get caught, I mean, people probably talk about the game a little bit differently, but sometimes it's just how it goes. And then that's kind of, yeah, like offense. Shout out to the O-line. Shout out Achane. I think Malik did a good job at receiver yesterday. Jonnu Smith became the new franchise record holder for tight end yards in a season. So shout out Jonnu Smith. He's been phenomenal this year. Really the whole line. I really liked what Isaiah Wynn brought. I thought Kendall Lamb and Armstead played good games. Robert Jones struggled because of those holding calls. Brewer had a holding call, but I think outside of that, he played pretty solid as well. And he's been one of your better players, I think, all season long. And then to defense. Hopefully I don't know. Hopefully Jordan Brooks' injury isn't bad and he can play next week, because if Jordan Brooks doesn't play, the Dolphins defense will be in trouble. Brooks is so good. He's playing out of his mind out there. Clearly their best off-ball linebacker. If Duke Riley has to play, their linebacker duo is going to get torched, even though it's the Browns, and the Browns are not good offensively. But Brooks was playing great before the injury. I don't think it's super serious, but you just got to hope he doesn't miss time, because Brooks is a guy that I'm very much looking forward to being around here for a while, because he was one of my favorite free agent signings, if you guys remember, just because he was young, not that expensive, and they got him on a nice deal. And you find free agents like that are still pretty young and you can have for multiple years. That's always such good value. Did he come back in the game at the end? Yeah, I forgot to check because I was watching some of the defensive film, but I forgot to check if Brooks came back in after the injury. So that's good. But Brooks was lights out. I would say the defense, it was the usual suspects of who balled out and who didn't. Brooks, Chop Robinson, Sealer, and Campbell made big plays when it mattered. And then the only DB that has played good probably the past 2 weeks is Kohu. Cater was great last week versus Houston. And then I would say this week, he obviously had the game-sealing pick. But before that, he was like one of the only DBs who wasn't really getting cooked out there. Poyer and Holland couldn't tackle anything. I would say Ramsey in man-to-man situations, every time they targeted him, he gave up a catch. So it wasn't a good game from Ramsey. Fuller, hopefully his injury isn't too serious. I don't think Fuller was getting cooked, but I don't think he was necessarily having a great game out there. It's really just was... Really, for the last couple of weeks, it's just been Kohu, Jordan Brooks, and then Sealer, Campbell, Robinson up front. Those are kind of been like the players for you in recent times. Brooks playing well this year, but will he pull David Long? Plays good. Yeah, I don't think that will happen, just because watching the film, you could see where David Long could go wrong. Because he always was kind of a guesser. Like, he would guess what gaps to shoot into, and then he was never a great coverage guy. Brooks plays a little more methodically, and he's like just a great athlete, has range. Those guys tend to not fall off as much, and he's still young. Like, he's still very, like, I think Brooks is only like 27, so I don't expect Brooks' play to really fall off much if it does fall off, you know? Oh, yeah, the Benito Jones play was crazy. Benito Jones has been another player that's played actually pretty solid for the Dolphins as like a rotational guy. I think they should have just counted it as an interception just because, I mean, that guy tried to run with his helmet off. Absolutely insane. I'm pretty sure he was the one mic'd up. They haven't released the full mic'd up, so I'm excited to hear the Benito Jones moment in the mic'd up because, I mean, hey, yeah, he's been playing good. It's just, I was thinking of the guys that play like a lot of snaps, but yeah, Benito Jones, very good. Another player who should I give some love to, Quinn Bell. Quinn Bell is just playing solid, consistent football every week. He's not like a super productive pass rusher, but he's setting the edge versus the run. He's dropping into coverage, like taking away some throwing lanes with his athleticism. He's playing very consistent football on the back end. Like I don't have any like for the past like 4 or 5 weeks for Quinn Bell. So I got to give credit to him defensively as well. Those are the guys that I think have been doing pretty solid. Do you think Chubb will be on the roster next year? My guess is no, but it's not impossible. It depends if they can restructure. I think at his current contract, I think they would try to move on. I would love for McMorris to play over Poyer. I think you got to see what you got out of him because safety is such a big need next year. And it's not like putting him in is like, oh, you're going to sacrifice the season even though you still have a chance. It's like, dude, the safety play is horrible to begin with. It's not like he's going to go in there and be way worse or anything. Give the kid a chance. See if you have something there so you know next year, okay, do we need 2 starting safeties? Do we need 3 safeties? Do we need like a whole room? Or is McMorris going to be our second safety or a third safety? Kind of figure out what you have in him so you know where to build next year. Because safety is one of the rooms you look at right now that's going to be completely overhauled, in my opinion, next year. Because like you look at the corner room, I think a lot of those names will be the same. They'll probably add some to it. Linebacker room, you still have Jordan Brooks. The rest of the guys might be different, but you still at least have Brooks, who's like your main guy. Up front will be pretty different, but you still have your main guys in Sealer, Chop, you'll have Phillips back. And then like offensively, same thing. Like guard will be completely different in my opinion. I guess it could be somewhat similar, but I think they might bring back some of the guys, but they'll be depth pieces. But safety's like the one room where like, dude, the whole room could be completely different. Yeah. Well, yeah, Njoku would feast against us. I think he was injured at the end of that game. I saw it on Twitter. People are saying like something to keep an eye on. So like he may or may not play this week. Aaron Brewer. Brewer's a stud. I love Brewer. I think Brewer, Jonnu, Brooks, Calais have all been very good free agent pickups for the Dolphins this season. And honestly, I would say Brooks and Brewer have been like full season have been some of your better players for you. Like from start to season to end of season, they've played like a lot of like almost every snap basically out there. And they've been some of your more consistent players. But yeah. And I think I saw some like safeties on the list that were interesting. Can't remember who were like free agent safeties. I remember like Cameron Bynum's a free agent safety. He's from Minnesota. He's still like, I'm pretty sure pretty young. He's the guy that does all their celebrations over there. They do like the fancy celebrations for the Vikings. He actually Cameron Bynum. He's one of the few NFL players that follows me on Twitter. Because I think I did a breakdown on him while he was in college. Is there a player on the practice squad that should be promoted to the 50-day player you want to see what the Fins have in that guy? I mean, last week they promoted Ezu Kanma. He didn't play that much, but I will say Ezu Kanma was out there trying to block, so I got to give him credit for that. Let me look at the list here. Maybe depending on how injured the corners are, if they get Isaiah Johnson up there, but I still want to see like Ethan Bonner at corner before I see any of the practice squad guys. Maybe like Rucci or something, tight end. But there's not too many guys on here that I'm like super intrigued and be like, oh, I need to see them. Other than like a couple of the undrafted rookies. They do have Colbert, but like I would rather see McMorris, you know? And they're not gonna, there's like no way they would bench Holland. So, and like they're gonna play McMorris or even Elijah Campbell. Like Elijah Campbell has been playing in 3 safety sets. I would much rather have Elijah Campbell out there because Elijah at least is like, we know he's a great special teamer. Elijah can at least tackle and plays fast. So I'd rather just have Elijah Campbell out there than Poyer. Ethan Bonner, I think, could transition to safety if needed, but that's probably something you would try in the offseason. But I do think Bonner could potentially transition just due to his skill set, and he's played like some safety reps in college. So Holland is gone next year for sure. I wouldn't say for sure because, and the only reason I think if it was last year, I would say for sure because the Dolphins had so many big contracts they had to play. Really, this offseason, the only big name free agent the Dolphins have is Holland. He's the only one you would really have to pay big money. So I guess there's a chance they could pay him for that reason, but I still think he's going to want too much. Show us, show you my chop impression. To be fair, that chop video, the one where he's like doing it on the sideline, that video goes hard. Not gonna lie. Right, do you think Eazy-E will play this year? He played versus the Niners. Not a lot of snaps. I remember just seeing him out there at least a few times, and he was blocking. He was blocking hard. That's kind of it. Do you think the rotation between Wynn and Eichenberg points to lingering injury to Wynn? I guess it could, but I think it's more so they were trying to see what they would get more out of. Personally, I don't like rotating, especially at O-line. I feel like that's a position where you shouldn't be rotating. Maybe they wanted to ease him in, Wynn into it because he hasn't played in like over a year. So that could be a reason, but I think they really just wanted to see like a battle between them and who gave them more in each situation. Do you think Holland will get 18 per year? If I had to guess, he'll probably like Budda Baker. Let me see. Budda Baker just got paid 18 million per year, right? He got an extension from the Cardinals. And that's with him out even reaching free agency. And that's like usually people when they reach free agency get overpaid. And then Budda Baker, who is a good player, and I really like Budda Baker, but Baker is also 3 years older than Holland. And I think age plays a factor into these free agency contracts. And even though Holland was bad this year, like all the previous years, he was at least a good level player. I think someone is going to pay him a bag. If he goes somewhere else, he is going to get over 20 million, in my opinion. Just because that's how free agency works. Because safeties are starting to get paid a lot. Do you think they should focus on high-end D-line or O-line in the first rounds? I'm a best player available person. Like, I think you should... Like, position value definitely comes into play. Like, if you have players rated closely, like, yeah, take the position you need more or, like, the one that's more of a premium value. But I don't think you should force yourself into a box because I think that's where poor drafting can come into play, where you're like, oh, I have to take a D-line or an O-lineman. But then it's like, okay, 3 years from now, down the line, it's like, oh, you took a guy that ended up being a bust, and then you didn't take the corner or the receiver who's an all-pro. That was clearly the better player. So I do think D-line and an O-line should be up there with priority. But that's what free agency is for. You have to kill free agency so you don't force yourself into a box where you need to take this position or this position. But I will say, I think D-line is for sure in play in the first round just because where the Dolphins will be picking, I think there will be a lot of D-linemen that are around that value in the draft. O-line, I'm not sure. I think O-line, it depends if someone falls, but I think they'll probably be reaching for an O-lineman if they pick one in the first. Kyle Krause has us taking Connerly from Oregon. Interesting. I know Connors Lee is like this. He's like the raw athlete guy. So like he has stuff he needs to learn. But he's super like, athletic, he has like the physical traits, but I haven't watched a ton of Connerly yet. So I'm not sure how I would feel about that just because I haven't seen him really play. But I think a lot of positions are in play. I think pretty much most positions besides, obviously special teams. I don't think they'll take a quarterback. Doubt they take a running back. I guess off-ball linebacker, probably not either, because I don't think there will be off-ball linebackers around that range that are first-round worthy. But I could see any other position being taken in the first round. I could be a safety, corner, edge, D-tackle, O-lineman, any O-lineman except probably center, like tackle or guard. I even think tight end would be in play, because I think Tyler Warren is a first-round player, and I think he's like a top 15 type player, and the Dolphins could easily be picking there. And I don't think that would be a bad pick either. I also even think wide receivers potentially in play if receivers best player available on your board. Robert Jones should be third string. Yeah, I don't mind having Jones back if he's depth. Not necessarily third string. I mean, teams don't even really have third string technically on the starting roster anymore. But like, if they bring Jones back, he should definitely be a backup. Right, you see my long list of prospects to do it on. I'd forgotten about the Senior Bowl and players who are going there that should have been on that list. Yeah, I saw the list. I like favorited a bunch of them. Like a lot of people left comments, so I know which players to get to. Some I can't remember all the players you said, obviously, because it was a long list. But I know you said like Marcus Mbao. Like that's a guy I planned to get to very early. He was actually who I was planning to make next. So far, I've done Gunnar Helm and Jack Besh. I've made videos on them. Those are up for members right now. But I think Marcus Mbao is who I'll make a video on next for the draft prospects. And then I'm going to continue down and just kind of go through like positions of need and guys I like. Still trying to find out, don't have film on everyone yet, so it's tough to make a bunch of videos. But yeah, guard should be completely overhauled next year. Guard, safety. Guard and safety are like the two positions where I'm like, all of your starters need to be different. Pretty much. Because everywhere else you'll like D tackle is obviously a huge need, but you're still gonna have Sealer. Same with like off-ball linebacker, you're still have Brooks. Edge should be, if Phillips comes back healthy, edge should be much stronger. Dude, if Phillips comes back healthy, Chop and Phillips could be one of the better duos in the league as pass rushers, because Chop's playing out of his mind. And Phillips, before his injuries, was playing very dominant. I actually thought I would say 2023, Phillips before his injury was the Dolphins' best defensive player. Yeah. Travis Wingfield is enamored with edge linebacker Shamar Stewart. Your thoughts on him? I like Stewart actually. I think there's a lot of edges in this class that are like kind of project players. Like they still need to learn how to play the position. Out of those players, there's a lot of them. I would say Stewart is probably the one I would first take a chance on, because that guy's like, I think he can even give you like potential defensive tackle reps in pass rush situations because he's so big for his edge size and he moves super well. It's just like a good run defender. But if that was the pick, and the reason I like him for Miami is he's like him and Chop like kind of fit together perfectly, because each like Chop's strengths, his Chop's weaknesses are Stewart's strengths, and vice versa. But I mean, I don't know. I don't think that would be like the priority pick for me though. But it wouldn't be a bad one. But I do like him. Who's your favorite D line out of who you've seen? Well, I think Mason Graham's the best D lineman, but like I feel like most people think that. I like Derek Harmon from Oregon a lot. He is a good mover at his size. Like I think he's one of the more explosive defensive tackles that I've watched. Let me see if there's any that I don't have listed yet that I've taken a peek at. Trying to find this list. Boom. So there's Mason Graham, Kenneth Grant, Tyleik Williams, all good players. I haven't watched Sanders yet from South Carolina. There's Walter Nolan. He's intriguing, but he's not my favorite. Norman Lott from Tennessee. I have to watch him more. Alfred Collins, yeah, that's what we talked about him a little bit the last stream, but I hadn't watched him yet. I watched a little bit of Alfred Collins now. That guy is a big man that you just don't move in the middle of the field. Then there's Deion Walker. Deion Walker's the risky one. Yeah, I would say probably Harmon from Oregon is probably a guy I like. What Stewart were you talking about? We were talking about the Texas A&M Shamar Stewart. That's who that's who he asked about. Boom. Go here. Yeah. Yeah, I saw you mention that guy, Carson Vincent. The only problem is it's very hard to find film on HBCU schools, so I don't know if I'll ever be able to make a video on him, but like if I get film on like those smaller school guys, I definitely always try to check them out. You see Cameron Williams going in the first round? Texas right tackle? think it's possible. I would say in this draft, a lot of things are possible, especially with the O-line, because, I mean, PFF has Cameron Williams rated 20th, and that guy's got, like, you know, he's listed at 6'5", 335. That guy is a big boy, and wouldn't be surprised if he goes in the first round. It's just, bro, this tackle class is so weird. Like, I don't think there's any, like, don't love them, any of them at, like, the top, and I think a lot of them are guards. But I wouldn't be surprised if Cameron Williams goes first round. Because I think after the top 15, it's going to be, like, from what I've, like, seen people talk about who are, like, have a lot of, like, scouting contacts, they talk about it as, like, dude, usually a lot of scouts are on the same page and they have, like, a pretty good idea of who's going to go in the first round. After the top 15, they think it's going to be, like, a shit show. Like, it could go in so many different directions. I think, and we're, like, still months and months out, so, like, it's very tough to predict at this point. I'll probably have a better feel for it when we get closer. Let's see. Anything else from the Niners game that I wanted to talk about? We talked about the offense, defense. Special teams was, you know, obviously the kicking game was good. Was able to make a lot of field goals. That's always helpful. They're still alive. At least it makes the season fun. I mean, it's always fun to get wins. It looks less and less likely like their team's gonna, you know, make changes at the end of the season. I still have no idea what they'll do at GM, but knowing Ross, probably would just keep it the same. I would be surprised if they've moved on from McDaniel. Yeah. Yeah, the top tackles being better guards would be great. I think a lot of the tackles are going to transition to guards. Like here, I'm looking at the PFF's list right now. Like, they have Will Campbell and Kelvin Banks Jr. at the top. I think both of them can play tackle. Like, they're probably the first two tackles off the board. But I also think both of them could play guard at the next level. I think they're both might even be better guards at the next level. That wouldn't surprise me. Josh Simmons from Ohio State. He's a tackle, but he's coming off a knee injury. Then there's Urs, I don't know how to say his name, the Minnesota tackle. I think he's a tackle, but not someone I'm super interested in. Wyatt Millam, he plays tackle at West Virginia. I think he's a guard, personally. I think he would be, I think his temperament, his play style, I think he has some limited athleticism, and I think and he's limited length. I think he would better slide in at guard. Oh, they have North Dakota State. I don't know if you've watched him, but Gray Zabel. They have him listed at tackle. I think he would be better at guard next level. I really like him on day 2. The North Dakota State guy moves well. Man, I watched a lot of film on him. Did I write down notes? I don't have my notes on this PC, but yeah, I was a big fan of, like, his temperament, man. Like, he was playing bully ball out there, but, like, he also had, like, really good feet. Obviously, there's the level of competition, but we see North Dakota State offensive linemen come out. There's, like, a good one every single year. Jonah Savainea, the Arizona tackle, I think he's better at guard. And I think he's played guard and both tackle spots for Arizona. He's for sure better at guard, in my opinion. Marcus Mbao, he might even be a center because he might be too light to play guard, but I don't think he has the length or size. Like, he's a very good athlete, very good hands. But I think he might be better on the interior as well. Yeah, that's all even, like, Armand Membao, the Missouri guy, I like him a lot. Those are just some guys that I think can play guard at the next level. Some of them might just be tackles, but boom. Let me put this here. Okay. Ross gave it. Yeah, that was kind of what I was talking about with McDaniel. Ross gave a game ball to McDaniel. Yeah. No, I was reading his name. I just was like, I'm giving up pronouncing it. Yeah. Arante Ursary. Honestly, Jack could be option and you would sign a tackle. Nah, I would rather leave Jackson at right tackle, personally. I think he's, like, the perfect fit for what they have at right tackle. But yeah, they could. It would be nice to have, maybe they draft a guy that's a tackle that they move to guard, and then potentially he moves to tackle for them down the line if they needed that. Always nice to have versatility pieces. But let me get rid of that. Yeah. Oh yeah. Good point, Grant. Good point. Here. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah. Honestly, I wasn't like. It felt like the Dolphins could have won that game a little easier. Obviously, Niners made a lot of mistakes too. Like they had some dumb penalties. They were, I mean, they had some. There was a couple cheap shots they had, which were, whatever. But they had some dumb penalties. But and they also like. I'm gonna do the defensive film breakdown tomorrow. But like Chop made some big plays. That play before the half where he tipped the ball, that would have been a George Kittle touchdown, and it held him to a field goal. That was a huge game-changing play. But I just think the Dolphins left too many points on the board, and they need to figure out how to tackle. I mean, Debo showed up and played his best game of his season. Jonnu has another year on his deal. We signed him to a 2-year deal, so Jonnu has another year. Which, to me, I still think tight end's a need, just because they need a Y tight end. Regardless if Jonnu was here or not, they still need a Y tight end, because Jonnu's more of an F, big slot type player. And this class has some good Y tight ends. I really like Gunnar Helm, the Texas tight end. I really like Tyler Warren, Penn State tight end. I actually think he's a first-round player. I think a lot of these tight ends are second-round players, like Loveland, Helm, Fannin Jr., Mason Taylor. There's a lot of good guys. Good class. Lots of players that I think can fit into Miami and like make an impact quickly. You know any? Yeah, I mentioned one earlier. There was Cameron Bynum. I could look up the free agent safety class real quick. But I know Cameron Bynum, who, I mean, that's he's in Minnesota. He plays good for them. He's he does all the celebrations. Let me just go safety. Justin Reed's a free agent from Kansas City. Jeremy Chin's a free agent. He's like almost 27, so still fairly young. From Washington, he's more of like a box safety. I don't know. I remember I liked him coming out of pre-draft. I don't know how he's played this year, so I would have to check out his film. Same with Julian Blackmon, younger safety for the Colts. But he's a name because these guys are like 26, 27, that range. So you could get them for like a few years deal, which is always helpful. Let's see. Holland's probably the biggest name here, though. Richie Grant from the Falcons. He was in the same draft as Holland, went in the same round, actually. Trevin Merrick, same thing. Raiders safety. I liked him coming out, but I don't know how well he's played. Just some names here that are like fairly young, so you don't have to like go. I think that's like, I'm looking for young players because I don't want to. I think the Dolphins have just been too old on defense this year, and Hoyer scarred me, so I'm trying to get younger at the position. So yeah, Cameron Bynum, who's 26. I talked about him. Darius Washington from Baltimore. He'll probably get re-signed. I think he's a restricted free agent, so that's really not too much. Talanoa Hufanga. He played for the 49ers last night. He's a good player. He's a free agent, unrestricted. And those are some names, though. So there's some like guys there that I think you get that are like average level starters, but you're trying to find a stud. That's why I want to get one in the draft fairly early. Yeah. Andrew Van Ginkel, 11 sack. Yeah. I know he had, did he have 11? I know he had 10. But yeah. Van Ginkel. Van Ginkel's like the only one that's like the one that got away, because you could have re-signed him. Yeah, Debo and Kittle gave us trouble. It's because the reason they give us trouble is because if you get the ball in Debo and Kittle's hand, they're so hard to bring down with the ball in their hands. Like, they're such good after the catch players, and the Dolphins can just not tackle like physical after the catch players. Talking about that on McDaniel or Barry, your thoughts? Well, I think the only problem with that thinking is we don't know. Like, Wynn's only been back for like a few weeks now because he missed. He was out. He was on IR and PUP, so we don't know like how healthy he was. So it's tough to say if it was just like being inept because it's not like he was around all season long and they were like, "Oh, you're just going to be on the bench." But I do think there is some responsibility that should fall on the coaching staff. But I don't know if it's like some like big deal, honestly. But if I had to guess, maybe the O-line coach wants to just keep consistency there because O-line is one of those like position groups where you want to have guys that have played together for a long time because once you start mixing and matching, you can really get into trouble. It's a big chemistry position. Shouldn't our preferred wide tight end be in the 6'4", 250 plus range? Yeah, that's why all the guys I just mentioned were like in like Warren, Helm, Mason Taylor. Those are like the wide tight ends. Fannin and Loveland are more, I think, big slots. But I think Helm, Warren, I mean Mason Taylor can do both, I think. But like that's why I'm like I have on my list I have like players highlighted in Aqua that I think are Dolphins types. I have Helm, Warren, Taylor highlighted in Aqua. But I really like Harold Fannin Jr. and Colston Loveland as players, but they're not really the ones I'm necessarily looking at for the Dolphins, just based on fit. I can look at some of them. Like if there's a later round guy you're looking for, Jackson Hawes from Georgia Tech. He's 6'5", 260. Guy can block his tail off. He's not going to give you much as a receiver, but that guy can block. But Fannin, he's undersized. Helm 6'5", 250. Mason Taylor 6'5", 255. Warren 6'6", 261. Loveland is 6'5", 245, but I don't think he has to grow as a blocker. But I think there's potential there for him to grow in that position. But a lot of the other guys, Terrence Ferguson might be a guy you look at in the later rounds. 6'5", 255. But those are like the Ys for the most part. Mitchell Evans, later round guy. But I think the tight end class is legit. Could Scadaboo be a fullback if he beefed up a little bit? I don't know. I'd have to watch a little more Scadaboo and like think of it as a fullback in mind to see that. But I do think he could play like an interesting. Sometimes I watch him and I thought he would be like almost like a Taysom Hill type role. Like, how they use Taysom Hill in New Orleans? That kind of like just offensive weapon. You use him in Wildcat, motion him around, get him a block as like a move tight end. So, but like a full-time fullback, probably not. But that Taysom Hill type role where, maybe gives you a couple reps at fullback, a rep at running back, a rep at, out wide, but mainly used for short yardage, yeah, and like special teams. Do you think the focus should be to build around Jonnu at the tight end, or do you find your next guy like Jonnu? I would like to keep Jonnu, until the wheels fall off, but like I've talked about, like there's two different tight end positions, especially in the Dolphins offense. What Jonnu's playing, like I wouldn't mind, bringing in someone to back up Jonnu that you want to build for the future. But really that other tight end position, like, should also be a stud on your offense. Like think of what Kittle is for the 49ers. Kittle and Jonnu both listed as tight ends, but very different players, and they basically play different tight end positions. I think the other tight end position is something you should be trying to find, and like that should be your next guy at the Y spot. While Jonnu is your F tight end, they call it an F tight end, but that means he's gonna be like a big slot. He'll play detached from the line of scrimmage. He's not usually hand in the dirt guy. He'll give you a couple reps there, but that's not really where he's gonna win with his type of play. Yeah, I would say D tackle, safety, tight end, guard. Those are probably the biggest ones that the Dolphins are going to need next year for sure. Then like an off-ball linebacker will help too. Another receiver probably, another corner, but those aren't like super priorities. But I think like D tackle, safety, guard, and what else tight end, like inline tight end, yeah. Yeah, Hawes, dude, that guy can block. I don't even like. He's literally just like a 6th offensive lineman for Georgia Tech. I don't even think. Honestly, I watched like a couple of games. I don't remember him catching the ball at all. But like, you want an inline guy, like you don't need someone to block. Like he would mesh well with Jonnu because Jonnu wouldn't have to do any of that inline stuff. And then Hawes wouldn't have to do any of the receiving stuff. But Hawes would be more like, oh, you missed out on a tight end you wanted in the first couple of rounds. I do want a guy that can like play in line, but also be a threat as receiver. That's why I really like Gunnar Helm, Tyler Warren, those types of guys. Gunnar Helm, Texas, first guy I made my draft video on this year. That will be out soon, for people to see. But Helm is a good player. I think all around, like good player. Like he is good after the catch, fluid, twitchy, like flexible lower half. He blocks in line as a Y, like he can seal, move out in space. He plays with some physicality. I've seen him block edges, climb to the second level. Strong hands at the catch point. I've seen some crazy tracking, crazy contested catch ability. And he runs some good routes. I've seen him get open versus man-to-man. I've seen him find soft spots versus zone. Like, just a well-rounded player at the tight end position. But yeah. Definitely some fun. I mean, I like the day 2 of the draft a little more for this group. There's some some of the people I've seen going in day 1. I'm like, ugh, don't love those as round 1 players. So hopefully Dolphins get someone you like in round 1 and then continue into round 2 because I think there's like better depth on day 2 than there is high end round 1 players. Anything McMorris to be a starting caliber player? It's tough to say. I liked what I saw from McMorris in preseason. Honestly, I mean, it's preseason, so you got to take it with a grain of salt. But like his aggressiveness and how he was just playing that game, like his instincts were like just so strong. So like that's why I want to see him get given a chance. That preseason made me feel a lot better about him as a player than his draft film. But he's a 6th round guy, so it is tough to know for sure until I actually see him actually play real regular season snaps, and then I'll be able to actually like guess or give a projection for next year. But he hasn't played anything other than special teams yet. Would you go after Deebo Samuel for 12 mil range? I mean, 12 mil is not that much for a Deebo player. Deebo would be a great fit in the scheme. I think it depends. I mean, I wouldn't be mad if they went after Deebo. It's just I do think the Dolphins need like a different type of receiver. Deebo definitely has a physicality and ability after the catch, and obviously he plays in a very similar system as San Francisco, and I'm sure McDaniel could find a lot of fun ways to use him. That would blend in really well with your other receivers and Jonnu type players. But yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't be mad if that was if there was that price tag. Why not? I do still think the Dolphins need another bigger receiver, like taller, longer catch radius type. Like I've talked about Jack Besh. I like him. There's some good ones in the draft too. Yeah. Well, it depends. I don't know how I feel. It depends what the trade. Like, if all your first round grades are gone by your time your pick rolls around, then yeah, I'd be down to trade down. But if you trade down, like you're 100% going to miss out on the first round graded players because there's really only like 15 in this class. We need an Ayuk or Purcell or Jennings. Well, those are all very different types of players, but I mean, Ayuk's a stud. Big time separator. Jennings would be like perfect in the system because he's like a big slot guy. Yeah. Yeah, QB, the only one I really liked that might go like, outside of the first round is like Gabriel from Oregon that I think would be a good fit. But I don't know. I haven't watched any of the lower guys yet. Any final questions? Anything else? Maybe drafts, Dolphins related. I posted like the Tua offensive breakdown obviously today. Isaiah Wynn video I posted just a little bit ago. If you haven't checked that out, tomorrow I'll probably have the defense. I'm trying to think who I'll do tomorrow. Maybe Chop Robinson. Yeah, maybe just Chop in the defense. Who should we watch out for in Cleveland's defense besides Garrett? Would trading Tyreek give us cap space? I mean, I'm pretty sure there would be a big cap hit if we traded Tyreek. So I just don't see us moving on from Tyreek after this season unless like he retires or something. Is Waddle coming back? Today McDaniel said we'll see when asked about Waddle, so. And Waddle was doubtful all week. Usually players are questionable a full week, then sit for the Dolphins, and then come back the next week. So I would guess probably not playing this week just based on Dolphins' history with players and how they sit them and play them. But who knows? Ryder asked which Finns were duds. Give us 3 players. Jalen Ramsey, Javon Holland, and Jordan Poyer. They were duds in that game. I would say they were the secondary was rough. Duke Riley, I'll throw in a 4th. Anyone else? Robert Jones, I guess. But like, the wide receiver that Finn's drafted in the 5th, when does he come back? We didn't draft a wide receiver in the 5th. We drafted Malik in the 6th. We drafted Taj Washington in the 7th, but he's out for season. Top 5 players that cannot start for us anymore by next season? I mean, God, we could go the whole list. Robert Jones, Liam Eichenberg. Just scrolling down our list right now. Anthony Walker Jr., sorry. Emmanuel Agba, sorry, don't think you can be a starter for us next year either. Poyer. Was that 5? I guess you could also throw Holland in there, but I think Holland is playing so bad this season, but like I still think he's good enough to be your starter for the next season. Obviously, you would have to, bounce back, but I think he will be gone. But those are like guys that I'm like, you got to upgrade at those spots. And not all those guys were bums. Like Agba's not bad. You have all your Christmas presents wrapped yet? No, I'm literally about to go shopping after this. Who should be in the Pro Bowl? Sealer. Honestly, I don't think our receivers are obviously top tier players, but I don't think they should be in the Pro Bowl this season. I think Armstead has been good enough to be in the Pro Bowl. I think Brewer has been good enough to Brewer and Jordan Brooks are maybe some underrated ones that I think could be Pro Bowl level players. Maybe Jonnu Smith. A lot of the free agent pickups. Achan's probably in consideration, but there's a lot of running backs, so that might be tough. Might as well throw Calais in there. He has a chance. Chop Robinson probably won't be, but he's playing at such a high level recently. But I feel like, honestly, out of all the names I'm seeing here, I feel like Sealer should be the first one to get a nod. Sealer, Brooks, Brewer, Jonnu are like the most prominent ones to me. How goes your membership campaign? I think I have like 8 members or something like that. So, I mean, people are watching, or 7, I don't know what it is, 7 or 8, but people are watching Sanders, another good shout. But, people are checking out some of the draft videos I've posted. Let's see, anything that I missed? Who should we watch over in Cleveland's defense besides Garrett? Let me see who's healthy for Cleveland, because I know they. Let me see their depth chart. I know they have some good players, obviously, on the defense side of the ball. Obviously, Myles Garrett. Denzel Ward at corner is like one of the better corners in the league. Honestly, they don't have too many names here that I'm like, I'd have to watch film to be like, oh, who's being like a stud for them this season. But like outside of like Denzel Ward and Myles Garrett, those are the big names. I know a lot of the rest of their secondary, like I know Grant Delpit won, Thornhill, Martin Emerson, but there's not like popping out to me as like elite players. But like Denzel Ward and Myles Garrett have been like 2 two of the best players at that position for years. Biggest surprise this season? What has been the biggest surprise? Trying to look at the players. I'm trying to think of big surprise in a positive way, not a negative way. Because maybe like Holland has been the biggest surprise in a negative way. Let's see. Brewer hasn't been surprising to me. Brooks not surprising. Those were ones I kind of expected. Jonnu. Those were all like my favorite free agent pickups, and they've been pretty good. Maybe Tyreek not playing as good as expected has been a bit of a surprise. I expected Chop to be good, but he's been even better than I expected. It's probably Holland, I feel like. Holland just like fell off like hard. Everything else was like, the other ones that are like surprising aren't like super surprising. Because I think Jonnu, yeah, someone said Jonnu. I think Jonnu, like if you watch my Jonnu fit, I was like, dude, Jonnu's the perfect fit for what the Dolphins need. Like he's not going to be considered elite for where he was coming from. But like his ability after the catch is exactly what Miami needed at that position. And if you watch the film, God, there was so much space to work with for tight ends in the Dolphin system, and he's been very, very good. Which is a good way to reach you, X, Facebook, email, other. Probably X. I've had people just like DM me on Twitter. So Javon's a free agent after the season. Do you think Chop will win Defensive Rookie of the Year? Probably not. I think it's probably too late. Probably will go to one of the Rams guys or something. Forget who else is in the running. But I think I wouldn't be surprised. I think he'll probably finish like top 5. It'd be sick though. Plus I also feel like, I don't know. I feel like you have to be doing like all seat. Like people have to recognize you early for your name to be there, and he kind of started a little bit slow. Yeah. Well, thank you guys for watching. Thank God the Dolphins won. Definitely makes it a lot more enjoyable. But yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Peace.